Sup tubes. Well, I figure in an effort to be a more active YouTuber, maybe I should do a video on this tractor too, as to what I'm doing, because this is kind of a common problem with these Kawasaki's here. Just to give a little backstory, I bought this tractor like 6 or 7 years ago, and the guy wanted like $500 for it, and it was pretty much beat to hell most of its life, and I drew them down to a pretty low price because like I said, my dad had one, and I knew these tractors have some amount of potential to them. And so I brought it home here and I cleaned it up somewhat. I put a new seat on. The fuel system was just basically all sludge all the way through. So I was going to get a new tank for it, but the tanks for these things were like ridiculously expensive. So I just ended up tearing the tank apart, cleaning it out the best I could, and putting new hardware back on it. Replaced the fuel pump. And when I was doing all that, what I noticed is these knuckleheads, they had the throttle and the governor connecting rods here all backwards. I fixed that and it improved its performance some, but it didn't fix all the problems. And I think I ran it that way for about a year, and I got sick of how it was running, and I ended up taking it in, and the shop I took it to said it was the carburetor, and they worked on the carburetor. I don't remember if they rebuilt it or just cleaned it. And it ran pretty good after that, but it still wasn't like how I knew these tractors should run. And after searching many forums, I found out over here that this igniter is a common problem that causes the hard start issues that these tractors have, which even when these tractors run right, they're very hard starting tractors, but when they get running, they run real good. So I replaced this, and this helped. I don't know if I said it, but this is the igniter. This solved a lot of issues too. I mean, this little electronic device, this was like a $90 item from the John Deere store. Wasn't cheap, but it's pretty good in this condition, but it's still not where I think a tractor like this should run. And I think a lot of it has to do with tuning. And recently online I found a couple of PDFs of service manuals for this tractor that the actual John Deere guys use when they set these tractors up. And I can tell by reading what they want you to do that I do not have this tractor set up right at all. Because one of the things I did replace too was this throttle cable. And behind the throttle cable, where is that? Somewhere back up in this area, there's a set screw for setting the choke. And after reading what they want you to do in a service manual, I do not have that set right. So that is one of the hard starting issues I think is happening. And another thing I found is my coil, the gap on it was way out of spec, and it was pretty rusty. It's still kind of rusty. I took a little 320 sandpaper to it and cleaned it up, this and that, the best I could, and then I wiped it down with mineral spirits. I don't know if that's the best thing to do, but I think not having that rust build up there is just as bad. So I'm going to put this back and get the gap in spec. And this looks like it was replaced at one time. This does not look like the original. I could be wrong, but I think this was replaced at one time from the looks of it. And another thing too is there is 2 adjustment screws on this carburetor. One right here and one right here. And this one is... Shit, am I even on camera here? One right... Yeah, I don't know if this is coming up at all. But one looks like it's more like a travel stop for the governor. Then the other one, which I've always assumed to be the idle mixture screw, which I think it is, but I have to look at the service manual just to be sure. I know I don't have set right. I've always just kind of guessed where it needed to be. And I know I'm way out of spec with where that should be too. So I want to get all these back in spec to how the service manual should be and see if it clears up some of the backfiring issues it has at startup. So what else have I done to this thing? I think that's pretty much it. But yeah, it was in pretty rough shape when I got it. But you know, I got it for a song, so I don't really care about putting work into it. But yeah, let me get to doing some of that stuff, and we'll see if it's in better condition afterwards. Alright, talk to you later. Okay, tubes, I'm back. I'm pretty happy what I've done so far here. One thing I found out is I did have the throttle cable hooked up right. I didn't end up doing it the way they wanted, but I did end up doing it right when I hooked it up originally. How they want you to do it is they want you to put the throttle all the way to the fast speed position to get these holes to line up. Then you're supposed to put a drill bit in there, which, you know, I don't really think it matters that you actually do that, just as long as these two holes line up. And then you adjust your choke back here, which is something that was not how I did it. I think I just kind of did it by sound or something like that, and where I thought it needed to be, and it was completely way off. So that was one issue I got fixed. And like I said before, the coil was way out of spec in its gap, and plus, well, all that rust buildup was probably not good for it either. And something I forgot to mention in my last clip was the spark plug was way out of spec on its gap too. It was probably like 35 thousandths, and it's supposed to be between 28 and 31. So that probably contributed to it a bit too. And after thinking about it, I don't know when I put the spark plug in originally, I probably just took it off the old one, and so if they didn't have the old one right to begin with, that's probably where I got that wonky number from. And then I made sure that the governor was adjusted right, and it was. And what else have I done? I think that's all I really did to it. Oh yeah, and the reason why I think that the coil was changed is because I think it says NGK brand on it, which I don't know if that would have came NGK from the factory like that for some reason. So I want to say on my dad's it says something else on there, but I don't know. I'm not an expert in these tractors. Yeah, let me finish putting the shroud on, and I'll let you hear run video.